Good afternoon and welcome to COMEX 2021. This panel session titled Oman a Credit Score, Malaa Credit Score, a game changer for Oman financing landscape. I believe we have 12 participants in this discussion. Hello, everyone.
Mr. Aadi, they cannot listen to your, they cannot respond to you. They can just give you a note on the chat box, like their comments on the chat box. You can continue with your proceedings.
All right. So we have some video recordings about Malaa score that can be shared later on for your information. Malaa score is a new product that has been recently launched in Oman, starting from 1st of January 2021. For those who don't know about Malaa, Malaa actually, it's an Arabic word. It means credit worthiness or financial solvency. It's the brand name for Oman Credit and Financial Information Center. This is a government center that has been established as part of Central Bank of Oman Strategy 2019-2021 to be the national data bank for Oman. The center is affiliated and supervised by the Central Bank of Oman. It has its administrative, financial, and administrative independence as well. What is unique about Malaa is it's not just a credit bureau. Like a typical credit bureau will just provide credit reports for consumer and corporate, but instead its legal framework, its IT infrastructure, its operating model is quite unique in the region because it's established as the one and only national data bank in Oman. It covers multiple sectors, unlike the previous credit registry or what used to be known as a BCSB. It covers the banking sectors, all the local and foreign banks and specialized banks, all the financing and leasing companies, but it also expanded its membership to SME funds, the 3 SME funds, Sharaka, Al-Raft, and Inma. And also it covers the telecom sector, Omantel and Ooredoo. Right now they're in the progress to activate their membership access, as well as the insurance sector. And in the future, auto dealers and anyone who is in the business of postpaid service will become a member of Malaa by law. On the other hand, we have the data providers who are government registries who have information that complement the, I would call it the 360 profile of a customer, whether it's a consumer or corporate. So this includes the tax authority, Ministry of Housing, land authority, land registry. We have also the Invest Easy, the the commercial registration registry. We have the ROP, the demographic registry, the civil registry. The Riyadh SME Authority for the SME registry, and Courts Authority for the financial court orders, and many more. There's about 17 government registries who are part of a 3 years plan to integrate all of them. Now, I want to talk more today about Malaa score. What is unique about Malaa score and why we see it as a game changer? Now, if I am to describe or use an analogy between a credit report and score and take you back to school days, a credit report is more like your 4 years college transcript, which define every history that you have and every great performance that you had for each course throughout the 4 years of undergrad. Malaa score take all those information from that detailed transcript and put it into one formula and calculate for you the GPA. Now, from a lender point of view, whether it's a bank, an SME fund, or a telecom, they are all about digital channels right now. They're moving away from physical brick and mortar branches to APIs, to digital channels, to mobile lending, and so forth. The recent one was Al-Aziz Islamic Bank launching an instant financing platform with Danube Homes for financing home furnitures and appliances and home equipment, basically, and finishing building materials. Now, this is possible because of Malaa score. Why is that? Because Malaa score is like the GPA for our students. It takes up all that credit history or academic history per se, and put it in a scoring model. Now, Malaa score or scores, credit score is not something new. It's been around in, in the West, in US since the 40s and 50s. In fact, it's so common that if you go to rent a flat anywhere in UK or in US or Australia, they will do a credit check on you. They will check your score, even if you don't reside in that country. All right. So it basically takes all your information and give you a score. The higher the score, the less the risk, the better you are, the better credit worthiness you have. So it discards the initial historical information that someone may have. So for instance, you could be in the first year college and maybe you get a C or a B in a course. But then you pick up your academic performance and you bring your GPA and grades to the A's. And then you graduate with a GPA of, let's say, 3.1 out of 4. If I am to just evaluate you as a student based on your transcript, I will be picking on the B's and C's that you score on the first year or second year. But if I'm only looking at your GPA, I will look at you as a whole, as a person, as a final, we will look at your academic performance at the end of that journey, 4 years journey. Same thing goes into banking. So banks sometimes, unfortunately, a good customer may miss out on good opportunities of financing because what they will do, they will just walk into a branch and submit the credit. They will fill up the credit application form. They may have somewhat, we call it is a payment history details, which by the banking regulation stays for about for 24 months. But in some cases, the clerk who's sitting on the branch may actually reject a possibly good and genuine customer for credit. And given the landscape in Oman before COVID in this economical situation, the scope and the number of good customers, by I say good customers, I mean, sorry, I don't mean good customers with good credit history. We are not here to decide who's good or bad, but we look at the credit history. All right. So customers with a good credit history, the pool is very limited. And with the COVID situation and with the economical downturn and with the companies lay off staff, employees, more and more people started to have negative information. Now, the central bank has been supportive and they established a deferment scheme for the loans. So, because this is considered as a force majeure, it's out of anyone's control. So the negative information won't be actually recorded in the credit history of the customer. But it's still, there are people who were stressed out, and sometimes it takes 3 to 6 months for the credit facility to downgrade from being healthy in a standard classification, standard position, to becoming a special mention, a substandard, with a 2 months delay to 3 months, to underperforming, to doubtful, to loss. So the idea is to introduce a score which will help lenders and start with even micro lending through their digital channels without the need of going through that lengthy diligence and due diligence. They still get a proper credit risk information. They still make an informed decision, but using a credit score, using a model. Now, the score, Malaa score, runs from 300 to 900. 300 means the lowest, that means the highest risk. 900 means the best score. Now, because it's a statistical model using Gini factors and R ratio and so forth, it most likely goes into a bell curve distribution. So basically, no one gets 900 because that becomes an outlier. The model, Malaa, what's unique about Malaa score is, it adopts the scoring methodology and engines that are operational and live in over 26 jurisdictions around the world, starting from Europe, Lithuania, Estonia, in Germany, Kufa Consumer Credit Bureau, Malta, Morocco, Indonesia, Kenya, and so many more. Some countries also in South America, they're using the same model that we have actually licensed. And the philosophy about the score is that the past predict the future. So basically, it's like school. Your historical performance predict your future chances of getting finance. But that doesn't mean if you score bad once, it will always haunt you. No, the Malaa score is dynamic. So it's actually give you a 12 months history, and your score could range between, let's say, 650 to 750 over the last 12 months. So it give you that trend, whether it's upward or downward, but it also give you the probability of default. What is your probability of default? So for instance, someone with a consumer loan and one credit card, and he's paying his loan, he or she paying her loan on time, would most likely fall in the range between 720 and 780. And that's within Oman, that's considered a very good score. So in 1 month, in a couple of months, maybe they start to default or become late on their credit card payment. So the score will drop down to 690. But the following month they pay on time, it will pick up again. And it calibrates, so it's dynamic. So it reflects, a monthly snapshot of your compliance to pay on time. All right. And obviously there's a number of advices, or we call it reason codes, which we have been communicating on our social media to promote and educate the public about what is the score, and how it works, and what you should do to maintain a good score, and what you should do to avoid, reducing your credit score, because your credit score becomes more and more vital part of your not only financial transaction, but even in some in the banking sector, even when it comes to appointment of some senior positions, they check the qualification, security check, health check, but also they do a credit check. So it's becoming more and more an integral part of the due diligence process. So the good thing is the reason scores are written in a very, I would say, user-friendly language tone. It's not that difficult to understand. So for example, if you got 740 out of 900, the first question will say, why I didn't get 800 or 900 or 850? And then it will tell you, because you have one credit facility. So each loan, or whether it's a credit card or a housing loan or personal loan or a car loan, it's one facility, because you have one credit facility, and the amount of that facility, the outstanding amount, let's say you took a 10,000 Riyal loan and you have outstanding 8,000, you still have 80% of that debt that you need to pay. That's the only reason why your score is 720 and not 820. But if you have like 5 credit cards, and some people, they don't have that proper financial literacy, then what you will end up doing is you will end up getting a score of 620 or 640, simply because each credit card is a revolving credit and it's a liability on you. And it even makes things worse if you have this 5 credit cards from 5 different banks, because some banks, they tend to promote, people to get credit cards, co-branded credit cards for, air miles and lounges and so forth. But people, they tend to activate the cards, and they don't become aware of the consequences and how it impacts their credit score. So our part is, as a national data bank running the credit scoring services, to educate, to inform, to publish information, to conduct awareness session, to get everyone to understand the importance of keeping a good credit history. Now, Malaa credit report, which has been recently launched, include the score as part of it, but also there's a separate product called Malaa score. As we speak, everyone in Oman, they are entitled to get their free credit report, and they can submit a request through customer service, email, they submit the request, and then they receive the credit report or score, so they know what is recorded on them. And the good thing about it, it's updated. The frequency of update is daily and monthly, and it's the same information that the credit report and score, that is accessible by all the banks, branches, banks, FLCs, and financing companies in Oman, from Musandam in the north all the way to Mazyuna and the border in the south. And that's the whole idea of promoting access to information, to credit information, and making it accessible. And as we speak, we are working also in developing some self-service digital platforms where any citizen or resident, consumer or corporate or company can authenticate, go through some due diligence registration process. And if they have a national PKI, that's even better, because that will cut down the authentication process for the identity. and then request for the credit report or score. And also part of the services is that will be launched in the future is to subscribe for a small fee for some monitoring service. So some people who are cautious, they don't want any negative information to be recorded on them. And in fact, in many cases, what happens is the customer will pay and close the loan and receive a no liability certificate from the branch, but the clerk and the branch will forget to close the credit facility and it will stay open in his credit report. So it's important to know, obviously they have obligation to close it, but sometimes there is that margin of human errors or lack of operational controls from some of the branches. So as a citizen or as a resident, you have the right to get your credit report, the first one, for free. And if you doubt that any of the information is not correct, you can actually request to rectify it. As we speak today, there's about a lead time of 5 working days to submit, from the date of receiving a complete request, an application and the IDs to process and send the credit report to the public because of the high volume of people requesting those credit reports. All right, I think that's it from my end. There is some short videos about credit score that explain how it works, basically recap what I said. And I'd like to ask the host if we have a chance, if there is any option for Q&A. I think we have a few minutes.
You can look into the chat box. I can find one question. You can have a view over the chat and you can answer it accordingly.
Yes, okay. So just to clarify, the government data providers, they don't have credit information. What they provide is only supplementary information to feed the model. The one who actually feed the information to the credit bureau system and basically the input parameters are the lending institutions, any entity that provides finance. So you have the 20 banks, the 5 FLCs, and the 3 SME funds, and then gradually you will have the telecom and anyone who providing postpaid service, not a prepaid. So anything is in the postpaid services. All right. I will come to the second questions once I finish with the first one. Now, the credit score, how it works. If you have no loans before or a history in the banking sector in Oman, what will happen is your credit report, first of all, it will come with only the demographic, the top section, the demographic information, and your credit score will be shown with the code XX. XX means no data available, no credit history data available. Now, what we are doing is now with the integration of the telecom sector for the postpaid service, where they have a clear responsibility or payment history. There are people who don't have loans, but they have a postpaid phone line where they're paying 20 or 30 riyals a month for the last 10 years. That's a sufficient credit history that can be taken and fed into a model where in the near future will be providing what we call it is a telecom score. So the telecom score or a basic score will be able to help the banks get some sort of an indication about the credit history of that customer, and then maybe avail them not with the 1,000 riyal loan or the credit card, but maybe avail them a 500 riyal credit card, and so forth. All right, so minors and anyone who don't have credit facility, just to be clear, the legal age in Oman is 18, and here we're talking only about credit facilities, not saving accounts. Minors, teenagers, they don't have credit facility because they haven't reached the legal age. The moment someone reaches the legal age 18, they go and open, if they get a job, they need to open a current account to deposit their salary, to transfer their salary. So the moment they open a current account, they can actually have a checkbook. So current account is considered as a credit facility because you can take credit card that will be guaranteed by your current account. And you can issue a checkbook that will be guaranteed by your salary. If you go now to Oman Telorido and you ask for a postpaid line, not the prepaid, postpaid, they'll say, bring us a salary certificate. That shows that you have sufficient salary. Because the whole thing is about calculating the debt burden ratio, the DBR, what they call it. All right. If you don't have a credit facility history in Oman, or if you are new in the country, this is to answer the first question. Your credit report will show only the demographic information. If your score will show the code XX, which basically means there is an explanation on the report that says that basically you don't have a credit information. That's why we cannot build a score for you. All right. Second question is about utilities. Utilities company, is it included or not? Now we have by law, by the legal framework, it is. But however, in Oman, we have decided to park it aside because there is a fundamental issue with utilities companies, because there are two issues here. The first one is they estimate the invoices, and that's a problem because the credit scoring credit engines runs on actual information, so you cannot estimate the information about the consumption of electricity or water bills. So it's not a good solid data point to go into the model. The second fundamental issue what we have in Oman is the fact that we have an issue with the way the tenancy contract is designed. I mean, as a tenant, when you go and rent an apartment, and if you are late in paying your utilities bill, the late payment, everything is registered under the landlord name, and that's wrong because the credit bureau works based on certain principles that you have to link every transaction or history, whether it's payment on time or delay in payment, to a unique ID, whether it's ID or a CR number. So because of these two reasons, the utilities are not covered. Okay, let's go to the next question. Is the credit score applicable within GCC? Is Malaa integrated with other financial institution and so forth? Every country, like Malaa, in every country there is either a credit bureau company or a credit bureau center or a credit registry. So regardless of the model, there is some sort of equivalency of Malaa in every country. It's like the commercial registry for companies. So regardless of the name of the registry, whether it's part of a ministry or a separate registry, there is some sort of equivalency in every country. Is the financial information in Malaa integrated with the GCC member state? Not yet, because we just launched the operation. However, in our legal framework, and there is a GCC level agreement where there is something called cross-border credit information sharing, where every two countries, based on the size of the economy and the trade, cross-border trade, they can enter into bilateral agreements and exchange credit information across the border. So the agreement is there. There is a unified credit report and score existing in the GCC. Myself, I represent Oman and the Arab Monetary Fund, and we have developed those kind of standards, standard reporting for the credit report. So in Oman, we go from 300 to 900 model, but in some countries they use 250 to 850. So how do you interpret the difference? So it's not, instead of waiting for the customers and the bank to misinterpret the numbers, we have unified the information in a certain way. Obviously, it's all to do with the modeling. It's like Standard & Poor and S&P and how they rate countries, triple B plus or A minus and so forth. Once this bilateral agreement is activated, we can have an electronic exchange of credit information. So your credit information goes with you. It's like your passport. Another application, what we've seen in Europe, is having a public-private key technology using basically an encrypted key in your phone, mobile phone, where you take your information with you in your mobile in encrypted format, and then whenever you travel and you move countries for jobs or whatever, you can actually carry your credit history with you. There is one question from Ahmad Al-Balushi. As an Omani citizen, individual, what does Malaa do for me other than monitoring my credit report? Now, Malaa serve the members who are financial institutions who provide loans and so forth, by providing them with the information, kind of a database where they can get the latest and the most accurate information about the customers in order to assess the credit risk. As an individual, what Malaa provide you is, one, provide you with not specifically, but to the public, as some sort of financial literacy and awareness about credit, because financial literacy in credit is not really addressed properly in the educational system, and even in orientation and onboarding of employees and new employees in organizations. Second thing is, as a citizen, you have the right to have your credit report, citizen or resident, and you have the right also to dispute in case something is not correct in your credit report. The third thing, indirect benefit, is by offering the Malaa scores and reports through APIs and digital channels. It actually facilitates and open more opportunities for lenders and more digital channels to get the information in a real time and then offer it to you through their mobile banking platforms, so you can apply, for instance, loans, micro loans, and so forth. So this is only possible because Malaa offer this information in this kind of a format or a service. Okay, just for the sake of time, I'm trying to address as many questions as possible. A group of credit score. Okay, question about whether there could be a group score or so forth. That question is more related to the connected and related parties. When you have a group of company and they have shareholding in multiple subsidiaries, yes, the credit score for the holding company is available, and for the individual one, because there is a guarantor relationship. So it all depends on the type of the relationship between them. Just trying to. Okay, so we talked about this one. Yes, the credit scores is available for SMEs as well. The 3 SME funds, they became member of Malaa, so they can access credit scores and reports for all the applicants of loans. Sultan Al Busaidi, there is one, with a fintech provide a loan either through its own loan book or through a partner loan book, be able to in the future API. The royal decree, to answer your question, is the royal decree defined the list of members, basically defined the list of members who are actually who are entitled to become a member of Malaa according to a membership agreement, and they obviously go through some registration process, and also provided a provision in case there is a future members, they can apply through the regulator of Malaa, which is the Central Bank of Oman, and once they satisfy the requirements, they can and the application is approved by the Board of Governors or of the Central Bank of Oman, then they can become a member. And the membership entitled 2 things. One is to provide data. So you have, as a member, you have to provide, feed data based on the reciprocity model to Malaa. At the same time, receive the credit report and scores through API or web on demand for a fixed and variable fees. Would there be any consumer endpoint be charged for a fee to receive a real-time credit score? If so, how would this be charged, be calculated? So as I said, the Malaa score with the Malaa membership with its members, whether they are banks, SME funds, telecom, or in the future some micro lending platforms, they enter into a membership agreement. They are 4 categories, 4 tiers of the membership agreement, depending on their portfolio size and so forth. And they are slotted based on the size of their portfolio, whether it's a small company or a mid-sized bank or a large local bank and so forth. And then the fixed fees it changes based on the tier membership. And there is, on the system, there is a count. There is a monitoring service for the number of inquiries made. And there's a packages. So members can subscribe to a package, or they can go for a pay-as-you-go service. So if they can subscribe to, let's say, a 5,000 score package to be used to consume in a 12 months period. And then if they exceed that, they can be charged that unit price of that package and so forth. And just like telecom, how telecom does it. Salah Tubi, how can I correct my scoring as I am requesting financial facilities and credit and score model is dynamic, so it gets automatically, no one goes in and modify the score or anything. It's all dynamic using algorithms. So the moment, let's say you missed out a credit card payments and a housing loan payment, for example, by a few days, but like, as per the banking regulations, only up to 90 days of delay, then become classified. So by a few days you missed out on, let's say in the month of May, come the month of, and your score dropped from 700 to 680. Come the month of June and you pay on time, your score will automatically adjust. And then, every month it will adjust accordingly. So it's dynamic. It's a dynamic form. It all depends on your payment on time. The good thing is the reason codes, which are published through Malaa social media platforms, explains how do you maintain a good score, how do you achieve a good score, and how do you maintain a good score, and what actually reduce your score and what actually improve your score. So as I mentioned, you could have a couple of guys, one with two credit cards from the same bank and they're paying on time, and the second one who has two credit cards from two different banks and they're paying on time. But the first person, the score maybe will give him the model will give him a score of 780. The second one, he will get a score of 740 or 730. The reason being because here you have a liability from two financial institutions, so there are certain parameters or formulas that actually get into the calculation. As a general rule of thumb, avoiding having multiple credit cards that are issued but not utilized is a good thing. Paying on time, and most importantly, avoiding guaranteeing family members who you don't have any idea about their financial solvency. So often the case, someone will go and co-sign as a guarantor for buying equipments or cars for his cousin or brother without knowing the fact that his brother or cousin, if he delayed the payment of those installments, it will all be reflected in his credit report and score. Yeah, that is as per the banking regulations. Bassam, last one. Yes, this is underway. So we are, as far as the strategy of Malaa works into three different fronts: the B2B, B2C, and B2G. So we're working the three streams at the same time. We started with the B2B. We launched them, the Malaa new systems to all the banking sectors, SME sector. Right now, as we speak, we are activating the telecom sector, and we are integrating with other government data providers as well. As far as for the B2G. For the B2C, we have two platforms. One is Malaati self-service portal, which is right now on design and entering development phase, and the Malaa mobile app, which will be available through Google and Android and Apple Store, and it will be available, in both in Arabic and English, the credit report and scores, and anyone from anywhere can authenticate using PKI or other authentication mechanism and obtain their credit scores or report, or raise a complaint, or monitor, or subscribe for the notification service, monitoring service, and so forth.
Dear Mr. Aadil, we are clicking on the time. If you can just try to round up your conversation.
Yeah, there are so many questions out there. What I suggest is please feel free to drop us a message if you have any further inquiries. We have our social media channels, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We have also our customer support, and we do quite often hold regular sessions, awareness sessions, educational sessions about credit score, credit reports, how do you improve your credit report and credit scores, and so forth, what to do, what not to do, and so forth. So it's important to become aware of all these things. And we had run a couple of awareness campaigns throughout Oman. We cover all the regions from Masandam to Dhofar, and we continue to have educational materials. And in case if there is a demand for any organization, or if there is a good number of audience, we are always willing to come in and give awareness session and have that discussion and answer any questions that anyone may have. All right, so I'd like to thank all the audience for the active participation. These are all great questions. I would like also to thank the COMEX 2021 organizers, and we look forward to talking to you soon.